Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Story Hour. I'm your host, Daniel Marcus. My fabulous co-host and partner in narrative crime, Laura Blackwell, is taking the night off. So sitting in is Tom Marcinko, an old friend. Tom and I went to Clarion West together, more Wednesday evenings ago than either of us, I think, would care to admit. Tom's short fiction has appeared in Rosebud, Interzone, Realms of Fantasy, which I affectionately like to call Reams of Fantasy, Science Fiction Age, Ellen Datlow's late lamented EventHorizon.com, and other venues. Many of the stories are collected in Astronauts and Heretics, and he's chopping a novel, writing another one, and getting darn close to earning his master's in humanity. He also writes plays, and one of them won an award, which is cool. He lives in Queen Creek, Arizona, and he is on Twitter as Tom Marcinko 2. So Tom, thanks very much for stepping in and helping out in Laura's absence. We really appreciate it.
Or substitute, Laura, but happy to be here.
Yeah. So I hope that you're all healthy and safe and taking care of yourselves, your loved ones. You know, I started Story Hour during lockdown last year in the early days of the pandemic with the intention of, you know, just some writer friends and me sharing our writing with each other and building virtual community in a really challenging time. And it has kind of grown beyond that. And week after week, we've had this procession of just fantastic authors, wonderful work, like clockwork, week after week. It's been such a privilege to continue to shepherd this project along. So basically, we turn to this ancient and time-honored form of entertainment, people sitting around the fire telling lies to each other. We have two authors every week, about 30 minutes each, doing exactly that. Tonight, we are very happy to have Elwin Cotman and S.G. Browne. S.G. Browne is it's his second visit to Story Hour, repeat offender, and it's Elwin's first. So welcome, both of you. Thanks very much for joining us. Each week, we also ask our guest authors to suggest a worthy cause, which we shamelessly shill on their behalf. So if you're fortunate enough to be in a position to help out, that's great. If you're not, that's fine too. Just listen up and be aware. S.G. Browne is reading tonight for Give Me Shelter Cat Rescue. This is a nonprofit volunteer-based organization dedicated to rescuing cats from abandonment and neglect. And it focuses primarily on adult and senior cats who don't have anywhere else to go. That's givemesheltersf.org. Elwin is reading tonight for the Roots Community Health Center. Founded in Oakland, the mission of Roots Community Health Center is to uplift those impacted by systemic inequities and poverty. They accomplish this through medical and behavioral health care, health navigation, workforce enterprises, housing outreach, and advocacy. That's rootsclinic.org. I believe we are starting the program tonight with S.G. Browne. Is that correct?
That's correct.
The third time I've asked you that. Sorry, guys.
That's okay.
S.G. Browne is the author of the novels Breathers, Faded, Lucky Bastard, Big Egos, and Less Than Hero, as well as the short story collection Shooting Monkeys in a Barrel, and the heartwarming holiday novella I Saw Zombies Eating Santa Claus. He's an ice cream connoisseur, Guinness aficionado, cat enthusiast, and a sucker for It's a Wonderful Life. You can learn more about his writing at www.sgbrown.com. Take it away.
Thanks. I'll be reading a story from my new collection, which is called Lost Creatures.
Nice.
And the short story is called Periodic Table of the Elements Weekly Singles Mixer. Atomic by Blondie is playing on the sound system when I walk through the front door. I'm decked out in a low voltage vacuum discharge tube dress that really brings out my deep reddish orange complexion, causing a number of heads to swivel my way. Drawing attention has never been an issue for me, especially since I'm very rare on Earth. My problem is that I can't seem to sustain a lasting relationship. Silicon says I have commitment issues, but I think it has more to do with a lack of chemistry. Hey, hot stuff, Nichols says, invading my personal space, his breath thick with the smell of beer. Where have you been all my half-life? It's bad enough he's using a stale pickup line, but mixed in with his beer breath, I detect more than a hint of francium, a useless, radioactive, highly unstable metal. I don't care if nickel does have a lustrous sheen. Beer goggles or not, I don't respect any element who can hook up with that contaminated, crazy bitch. But that doesn't mean I can't have some fun. I run a playful finger along Nichols' hard exterior. Did you know that if you combine our atomic symbols, you get 9? Nichols nods, mesmerized by my finger, which I put under his chin to bring his gaze up to meet mine. Transition metals have a habit of staring at my isotopes. Do you speak German? I ask. Nichols shakes his head. I lean forward as if to kiss him, but instead whisper in his ear, 9 means no, I say, and then walk away, leaving him to contemplate his incompatibility. On my way to the bar, I catch Hydrogen checking me out over the top of his margarita, his eyes glassy and full of mischief. While Hydrogen has a good sense of humor and a spontaneous personality, there's never been any mutual attraction between us. Plus, he has commitment issues. You put enough pressure on him and he turns into a liquid metal. So if you're looking for a serious relationship, he's not exactly husband material. He's also prone to violent reactions and is highly flammable. I know more than a few elements who've been burned by him. Even though I know nothing will come of it, I give Hydrogen a playful smile just to be flirty. But when he returns my smile and beckons me to join him, I wonder if he's had one too many margaritas. Then I glance over my shoulder and see Fluorine making ions at Hydrogen, seductively sucking on the straw sticking out of her half-finished pina colada. Fluorine is the lightest of the halogens, with a pale yellow complexion the color of diluted urine. Like all halogens, fluorine only has 9 electrons. In periodic table parlance, she's 1 electron shy of a full shell, not to mention she's highly toxic. So, caveat emptor. Not that I'm judging or anything, but fluorine is a reactive, electronegative, poisonous skank who looks like she's suffering from jaundice. But when it comes to bonding, Hydrogen has never had much in the way of standards. Sulfur, iodine, selenium, nitrogen, bromine, phosphorus. Doesn't matter if you're male or female, noble or poor, stable or monoatomic. If you're ionizing, Hydrogen is synthesizing. Not to be outdone, fluorine has formed compound bonds with nearly all of the other elements. She's kind of the resident periodic table slut. She saunters past, not noticing me on purpose, if you know what I mean, and cozies up to Hydrogen, who looks her up and down and says, "Damn, girl, you're looking good enough to combust." "I bet you say that to all of the halogens," she says, and flashes her pearly whites. I have to admit, she does have great teeth. These two definitely have a history together, and I don't want to be around if that history repeats itself. Hydrogen fluoride is a poisonous gas that can cause a variety of adverse long-term health effects. And if the two of them end up getting aqueous, the resulting bodily fluids can be downright corrosive. I look around for the nearest exit just in case. But other than the front door and a couple of windows, the options are limited. Considering this place is filled with a bunch of volatile chemical elements, the owner should invest in more windows or better ventilation. Maybe a couple of emergency safety showers and eye wash stations. And they don't have nearly enough fire extinguishers. Before things can progress to the point where I have to worry about getting any hydrofluoric acid splattered on my new dress, I make it the rest of the way to the bar and order a whiskey sour. Mostly because it's my favorite drink, but also because sour fits my mood. I know I shouldn't be such a negative neutron. After all, I'm not the only element who can't make a commitment to anything that lasts much longer than a spontaneous exothermic reaction. The other noble gases don't form permanent bonds either, although radon, xenon, and krypton have all hooked up with fluorine. Big surprise. Xenon tells me I should lower my standards and just get down and nasty with someone, morning after regrets and walk of shames be damned. She stops short of suggesting I get together with technetium or promethium, which is good since neither one of them have any stable isotopes. The last thing I need is a stalker. In spite of my inability to form any lasting connections or meaningful bonds, I keep coming back to these weekly mixers hoping to find my ionic soul element. Although at this point, I've all but given up on the idea of romance and would settle for some clumsy covalent foreplay. On cue, Aluminum approaches me wearing an awkward smile in the suit he bought off the rack. While intelligent and versatile, Aluminum doesn't have what you would call a magnetic personality. "Hey," he says. "Hey," I say, trying to be aloof so he doesn't think I'm interested, which I'm not. On the sound system, Blondie has been replaced by the sweet singing Love is Like Oxygen. "You here by yourself?" Aluminum asks, not wasting any time. While I appreciate his forthright approach, sometimes a girl likes some subtlety and nuance in a romance, just not from him. I'm meeting someone, I lie. That's cool. Aluminum nods and looks around as if this was all part of his plan. Then he points at me and winks. I'll catch you on the flip side, babe. I hate being called babe. As Aluminum walks away, I catch a glimpse of my reflection in him and stare at myself, wondering why it is that I can't develop a real emotional connection. I've tried online dating, H2OK Cupid, plenty of electrons, solid meets gas, but none of these resulted in anything that went beyond a first date. Silicon suggested I try my luck with Atomic Tinder, but everyone there is too busy rock climbing, snowboarding, wine tasting, or oxidizing. I went out with Thulium a little over a year ago, but it didn't last. He's nice enough, non-toxic, bright, a good conversationalist, with a pleasant silvery gray complexion that gives him a distinguished look. And, like me, he's a rare find on Earth. But he's soft and malleable, whereas I prefer someone who's more of a take charge kind of element, a little more dominating between the electrons, if you get my drift. Plus, he never wanted to try any position other than missionary, which was disappointing considering his atomic number is 69. After ending things with thulium, I went on a couple of dates with titanium, who is corrosion resistant and has a great strength to density ratio, but he's narcissistic and a poor conductor of heat. I followed up titanium with tungsten, robust, but very dense. Tantalum, too pliable and soft when in its crystalline alpha state, and tellurium, brittle and mildly toxic, before manganese pointed out I was serial dating elements with the same first letter. So I broke the cycle by going out on dates with platinum, gold, and silver, but they're all transition metals, so I knew the dates wouldn't lead to anything serious. Eventually, I ended up in a short-lived, highly toxic relationship with beryllium, which was when I started going to therapy. Here you go, Copper says, setting my whiskey sour in front of me. While he tends to tarnish easily, copper is resistant to corrosion, making him better suited to bartending than most other metals. But I've been to singles mixers where mercury, arsenic, or lead have been pouring drinks, which is a lawsuit just waiting to happen. I give Copper my American Express iridium. Keep it open. Sure thing, he says with a smile. It's a nice smile, warm, sincere, unpretentious, the kind of smile that can charge an element's protons. But his teeth have a constant green patina that makes it impossible to think about kissing him, let alone forming a compound bond together. I take my whiskey sour, then turn around to check out the room and peruse my options for romance or hookups. Nickel and cobalt stand in the middle of the room, laughing conspicuously as if to prove they're a couple of regular ferromagnetic elements who know how to have a good time. Not far from them, zinc and cadmium stand next to each other in matching bluish-white suits, drinking Coronas. Rather than laughing like a couple of attention whores, they don't say a word but survey the crowd with casual indifference, as if they're the prize. On the surface, zinc and cadmium both seem like good prospects for either casual hookup or an ongoing friends with benefits situation. But while cadmium is resistant to corrosion and can form complex compounds, he has a toxic personality. Zinc, meanwhile, has 5 stable isotopes and is hard at room temperature, but according to sulfur, he becomes soft when things start to heat up. At the other end of the bar, Hydrogen, who apparently bailed on fluorine, is doing tequila shots with one of his brothers. I've lost track of how many brothers he has, which isn't surprising since hydrogen is the most abundant element in the universe. Oxygen has joined them, laughing and fawning all over the 2 hydrogen brothers as she tries to match them shot for shot, rubbing up against first one of them and then the other. It doesn't take a doctorate in chemistry to know where this little party is headed. Trapped between them and the far wall sits Iron, neurotically drinking his scotch and soda through a straw, looking anxious and annoyed. Hey, watch what you're doing, he complains as Oxygen and one of the hydrogen brothers stumble into him, causing him to spill his drink. Stop touching me. While Iron is stable and hard in all of the right places, he definitely has some OCD issues when it comes to other elements causing him to oxidize. I don't know why he bothers to come to these mixers. The sound of shouting draws my attention to the other side of the room, where thorium has apparently said or done something inappropriate because sulfur, fluorine, and iodine are all attacking him. You do not get to speak to me that way, Iodine says, one hand on her hip and an index finger jabbing at thorium's chest. You got that? Yeah, you radioactive prick, Fluorine says, getting up in thorium's face. You got that? Sulfur doesn't say anything, but just dances around thorium, lighting matches and flicking at him as she sings along to Uranium Rock by the Cramps. Before the situation can escalate, Carbon intercedes, playing the role of peacemaker. Now let's all just try to calm down, not get negatively charged, Carbon says. Telling three agitated and highly volatile female elements to calm down isn't the most prudent approach. But since he's a common element of all known life, carbon gets along with just about everyone. So it doesn't take long before fluorine, iodine, and sulfur are all going back to the drinks while carbon escorts thorium outside. Along with his easygoing nature and his two stable, naturally occurring isotopes, carbon has a soft side and a hard side, a nice combination of the feminine and the masculine. Plus, he's capable of forming multiple stable covalent bonds, which makes him an ideal candidate for a long-term relationship. But while carbon seems like relationship material, he does have his flaws. For one thing, he can be opaque one moment and completely transparent the next, so you're never exactly sure what you're going to get. Not to mention he's formed more compounds than any other element, almost 10 million if you believe the rumors. So I'd always wonder if he practiced safe bonding. Plus, he's into all that organic crap, wears nothing but turtlenecks and flannel, which is way too granola for my taste. With a sigh, I go back to scoping out the bar, my options for a potential bond running low, when someone taps me on the shoulder. I turn around expecting to find calcium or lithium ogling my ass. It wouldn't be the first time. Instead, thulium stands there next to bromine, holding her hand, which is a neat trick considering that in her current state, she's a fuming red-brown liquid. Thulium and I haven't spoken since we broke up over a year ago, mostly because it was always too awkward, but also because I'm skilled at avoiding intimacy. But I've heard through the periodic table grapevine that he and bromine have been dating for a couple of months, so this isn't totally unexpected. Hey, he says with a sheepish smile. Hey, I respond, trying to breathe through my mouth. Bromine has a stench that is sharp and disagreeable and irritates the eyes, lungs, and throat. I have no idea how thulium can stand to be around her for more than a couple of minutes at a time, let alone have sex with her. After a few moments, bromine clears her throat and says she needs to freshen up, which is the understatement of the year. She kisses thulium on the cheek and shoots me a glare before sloshing off toward the non-metals room, leaving thulium and me to enjoy an awkward silence. So, how have you been? He finally asks. Great, I lie. How about you? I'm good, he says. I'm with bromine now. So I see. I take a drink of my whiskey sour, trying to come up with more small talk, which is always fun. How's that going? Great, he says. We're great. She's great. Like all halogens, bromine is one electron short of a full octet, so she reacts with numerous other elements in order to complete her outer shell. While not as big of a slut as fluorine, she still gets around. Again, not that I'm judging. Neon Tiger by the Killers plays over the sound system as another awkward silence ensues. Thulium glances toward the direction of the restrooms, probably hoping for bromine to return to save him from having to say anything else, before he turns back to me and says, I'm sorry things didn't work out between us. Great. One of those conversations, just when I needed to make my night. Yeah, well, I say, trying to think of something to say to him that won't hurt his feelings or make me sound like a bitch. It wasn't you. It's me. I know, he says, which is annoying because it was most definitely him. But sometimes I still think about you. I don't nod or smile, but I hide my non-reaction, my whiskey sour, which I drained before I placed the empty glass on the bar and signaled to Copper for a refill. Stat. Let me get that for you, thulium says, reaching for his wallet. That's okay, I say, I've got it. Oh, okay. But, if you want to get together for coffee sometime, his gaze wanders to my isotopes and lingers there. Maybe a drink. What the hell is going on here? Bromine hisses as she comes sloshing up to us, fuming like always. Nothing's going on, thulium says. We were just talking. Just talking? Bromine says. Then why do you look like that? While thulium's default state is a pleasant silvery gray, whenever he gets excited, his ions emit a strong blue luminescence. And right now, he's the color of cobalt. Just look at yourself. Bromine sloshes over and grabs aluminum, who appears to enjoy the attention, probably because he's hoping to casually synthesize some aluminum bromide, then drags him over and shoves him in front of thulium, his blue luminescent reflection staring back in shocked embarrassment. I don't, thulium stammers. It doesn't, I mean, shut up, bromine shouts at him, boiling with anger, which is problematic since she evaporates readily. Just shut up. By this point, most of the other elements in the bar are watching us and waiting to see what happens next. It's rare that there's not at least one explosive chemical reaction at these mixers, which always makes for a memorable evening. But when the others see that the noble gas is involved, they lose interest and go back to what they were doing. While I may be pretty to look at, I'm definitely not the life of the party. Bromine continues to boil and seethe with anger, which only causes thulium to grow a brighter shade of blue. Displays of dominance and bondage always did turn him on, although he didn't have much of a tolerance for pain, and he could never remember our safe word. Listen, I say, trying to calm Bromine down. Nothing happened. We were just, I know what you were just. Bromine gives me a look of contempt. I may not be as bright or as flashy as you are, but I'm not an idiot. I didn't say you were an idiot, I say. I just meant, I don't care what you meant. She continues to boil, drops of her splattering everywhere. A couple of the drops get on my dress, which is just great. There's no way I'm getting the smell out of that. Just stay away from him, you colorless, tasteless bitch. Then she evaporates into a reddish-brown gas and floats toward the exit. Thulium looks at me helplessly, his bright blue luminescence dimming a couple of shades until he's the color of a faded violet, before he turns and goes after her. Bromine, honey, wait. I watch him go, knowing that I dodged a bullet when I got out of that relationship. Then I turn back to the bar to find my second whiskey sour waiting for me. For the record, Copper says, I don't find you colorless or tasteless. Thanks, I say, but he's just being nice. All noble gases are colorless and tasteless, as well as odorless, which is a big selling point when you're competing for attention with the likes of sulfur. But even though noble gases have our shortcomings, most elements, especially the halogens, secretly want to be us. Take me, for example. I have 10 electrons symmetrically arranged around my nucleus like the petals of a flower. Bromine, meanwhile, has 35 electrons, giving her a skewed orbital arrangement. She's completely out of balance and desperately wants that one little extra electron to make her symmetrical and happy, which is one of the reasons why she's so jealous of me. The same goes for fluorine, who only has 9 electrons, which is probably why she's such an indiscriminate whore. Sodium, on the other hand, has 11 electrons. While she's not as burdened with electrons as bromine or rubidium, she's not as svelte or as perfectly balanced as I am. No matter how much she exercises or how many proton diets she goes on, sodium can never manage to shed that one extra electron, unless, of course, she hooks up with a halogen like chlorine. I look up at the mirror behind the bar and start into my second whiskey sour as I watch the other single elements continue the drunken pursuit of covalent ionic bonding. In the back corner at a table for 2, sodium and chlorine canoodle as happy as 2 full atomic shells, which isn't surprising considering alkali metals and halogens are the most reactive of all elements. Halogens have a tendency to rip an electron from other atoms because, well, they're selfish assholes. But alkali metals like sodium, most of whom are Leos, have an equally strong tendency to give an electron away. It's just their selfless nature. Still, I have no idea what sodium sees in chlorine. He's toxic, gassy, irritating, and chemically promiscuous. I wonder if sodium knows that chlorine has at one time or another combined readily and eagerly with nearly all of the other elements here. The jealous bitch in me wants to send phosphorus, nitrogen, or magnesium over to their table just to open sodium's goo-goo eyes to the fact that chlorine is a man whore. But then I remember my therapist's advice to focus on my own happiness as separate from the happiness of others. So instead, I raise my glass to their reflection and wish them a happy and healthy bonding before I drain half my drink. From the corner of the bar, Iron lets out a drunken war cry when Black Sabbath's Iron Man comes on. He tries to high-five Hydrogen, but misses and stumbles into him and his brother, his hand inadvertently landing on one of Oxygen's breasts. Easy there, pal, Hydrogen says. You might end up oxidizing. You know, you guys aren't so bad, Iron says, putting an arm around each of the Hydrogen brothers while Oxygen does another shot of tequila. Hey, do the 3 of you want to come back to my place and play Trivial Pursuit? Before I can drain the other half of my whiskey sour, a high-pitched voice cuts through the music and babble of conversation. Oh my God! I turn around to see Helium walking toward me, all smiles and wide-eyed enthusiasm. That's all I need. Helium's perky, sunny disposition to try to cheer me up when I just want to wallow in my unreactive solitude. Hey, girl, she embraces me in a gassy hug. What's up with my favorite noble gas? I'm great, I say, not bothering to hide my sarcasm. Well, you look fabulous, Helium says, her voice rising to an almost ear-splitting pitch. It's so great to see you. I just give her a thin smile. Can I get you something to drink? Copper asks Helium, flashing his green patina smile. He really needs to invest in a good toothbrush, maybe a Sonicare. Helium looks over the menu of happy hour cocktails, then she points at my glass. What are you drinking? Whiskey sour, I say. She wrinkles her nose ever so slightly, which is the closest she gets to anything resembling a negative reaction, before she turns to Copper with a radiant smile. I'll have a pomegranate mimosa, please. 1 pomg mimosa, Copper says. Coming up. Helium laughs and turns to look around the bar. I love this place. It's so much fun. I don't know why she's always in such a good mood, considering she's just as unreactive as I am. It's probably because she leads a fulfilling existence working in MRI and satellite technology, fiber optics, semiconductors, airbag safety systems, not to mention the Large Hadron Collider and the Apollo space vehicles. Well, I've primarily made my living by ubiquitous flashy advertising, although I have dabbled in lasers and cryogenics, so at least my existence isn't completely meaningless. Here you go, Copper says, delivering Helium's pomegranate mimosa. Enjoy. I will, she says, and takes a sip of her concoction of sweetness, the yang to my whiskey sour. It's yummy. You want a sip? No thanks, I say, and down the rest of my drink. At the other end of the bar, Iron is passed out in the corner, while the hydrogen brothers draw on him with a permanent red oxide marker. Oxygen stands nearby, giggling uncontrollably. I don't know if it's the spectacle of watching the hydrogen brothers humiliate Iron, or the numerous awkward encounters I've had with unsuitable suitors, but I decided that I'm so over this whole singles bonding scene. I'd rather be home by myself, curled up on the couch with a glass of red wine, binge watching Glow on Netflix. Will you watch my drink? Helium asks. I need to use the little noble gases room. Knock yourself out, I say. Helium's high-pitched laughter cuts through Black Sabbath's grinding guitar finale. You're so silly. When I get back, you have to catch me up on everything you've been up to. Can't wait, I say. As soon as Helium leaves, I close out my tab, pay for her drink, and give Copper a generous tip. Then I call for an Uber on my phone and head toward the front door before Helium can return and harangue me with her annoying nonstop optimism. On my way out, Potassium comes stumbling into the bar wearing sunglasses and nearly runs into me, obviously drunk or stoned on some kind of intoxicant. He's usually silvery white sheen tarnished with a dull oxide coating. Hey, Red. He lowers his shades to look me up and down, his eyes glassing at half-mast. You look absolutely incandescent. Want to play a game of hide the proton? I give him the finger and continue past him to the front door, glancing back when Iron cries out in a drunken fury, You guys are assholes! He's looking at himself in the mirror behind the bar, atomic symbols and the phrase rust me drawn all over him in red oxide, while Oxygen and the Hydrogen brothers stumble away from the scene of the crime, laughing hysterically. Potassium continues to check me out, distracted by my reddish-orange glow. He gives me a parting wink, then he turns around, not watching where he's going, and walks right into Oxygen and the Hydrogen brothers. The next instant, the bar is filled with a bright flash and a loud bang, followed by a thick cloud of hydrogen gas. When the smoke finally clears, all that's left is a puddle of water and a bunch of potassium hydroxide scattered across the floor. Well, I'd like to find an element I could bond with, someone I could wake up next to in the morning without having to worry about feeling the sense of regret or wondering where I left my bra. Moments like this make me appreciate that I'm so unreactive. As Copper grabs a mop and broom to clean up the mess and Nirvana's Lithium blares from the speakers, I make like an atom and split. While waiting outside for my Uber, I scroll through the various dating apps on my Samsung Galaxy, contemplating all of my unappealing matches and failed relationships, thinking about my lack of reactivity and inability to bond with other elements. And I wonder if I should just delete my dating profiles altogether and get a dog instead.
What's the atomic symbol for dog?
I don't know.
Well, that was really fun. I just admire your stamina and ongoing creativity with this. That was really cool.
Well, thanks. I'm pretty sure, no, I'm not pretty sure. I know I learned more about chemistry writing that short story than I think I did in my high school and college chemistry classes combined,
Right.
or at least that I remember.
Yeah, that's an example of the saying, anything that's worth doing is worth overdoing. So, that was great. Thank you very much. A noble experiment in fiction, Cliff says in the chat. Outstanding. All right. We typically pause for a moment just to take a breath, get ourselves teed up for the next author. So we're going to do that. Let's take a breath. All right. Elwin Cotman is a storyteller from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. He's the author of 3 collections of speculative short stories. The Jack Daniels Sessions EP, what a great name for a collection. Hard Times Blues, and Dance on Saturday. Cotman has toured across North America doing readings. His work has appeared in Grist, Weird Fiction Review, Blackgate, Electric Lit, BuzzFeed. In 2009, he was a core member of the Cyberpunk Apocalypse Writers Cooperative, a DIY writer space in Pittsburgh. He's curated many readings and reading series. Cotman holds a BA from the University of Pittsburgh and an MFA from Mills College, right down the road from me. Take it away, Elman. Thanks very much for joining.
Thank you. I had nothing that would fit the reading length, so I decided to do an excerpt from my book, Dance on Saturday. I'll read the end of the last story, the last part of the last story. All you need to know, leading into it, it's an homage to Fin de Siècle children's literature. There are two girls, they're orphans, named Mary and Sarah. They're sisters who escaped from an abusive orphanage with a boy named Cedric. And at one point in their adventures, Sarah was given a book by a man who claimed to be a wizard. His name was J.M. Nesbitt. And now they are being recruited to deliver a package to an underworld person. Night cloaked the Tenderloin in purple and gray. Cedric stayed at the water tower while Mary and Sarah made a trek to the 50s, the tenements on either side like large flat paintings. Mary kept an eye out for robbers, never knowing who might try and take the package. While the first sack had been light, this one weighed almost nothing at all. For that reason, she let Sarah have the satisfaction of carrying it. Mary had a name and an address, which led them up a fire escape at the back of the building. She knocked on the window, repeating the speech she'd prepared in her mind. At the fifth knock, it slid open with a groan. The lace parted, and there appeared a woman's face like a granite block set on muslin. The obese negress squinted through her spectacles with small piggy eyes. Mary stood to her full height, held up the sack. "From the West Indian," she said, "for the Lady of New Orleans." A woman's voice rang from inside. "I am not ready for company. Teresa, they will wait until I am ready." Her southern twang reminded Mary of Dr. Chambers, making her cringe. "You will have to wait," the husky-voiced negress repeated in weary resignation. Slam. Mary's speech flopped pathetically to the rails, a broken-winged bird. Wait then. The ironwork under her butt was hard and rimmed with ice. She had enough experience sleeping on fire escapes to know she distrusted them. She always felt like she would fall. 3 stories down, silver grass glimmered in a small backyard. Feeling her stomach lurch, she looked across at Sarah. Her sister had insisted on bringing the book, which she wasn't even reading. One arm around the doll, the other around the L. Frank Baum book, Sarah drifted in and out of sleep. Dizziness called Mary's attention to her empty belly. She knew she wasn't dying, it just felt like dying. God damn, it was cold. Bone splitting, fingers falling off cold. She closed her legs and rubbed her thighs together to make warmth. She thought of little black Sambo and of herself, children in the woods. All she wanted was to go for a walk. All he wanted was to go for a walk. When the four tigers threatened to eat him if he didn't give up his clothes and umbrella. Their greed backfired on them when they fought over who was the grandest tiger, and Sambo recovered his belongings while the tigers chased each other in a circle. They ran so fast they became syrup for his pancakes. Her stomach moaned. "Don't think about pancakes," she told herself. Still, if she could have one of Sambo's treasures, she would choose the purple shoes with crimson soles and crimson lining. Her feet hurt so much. Someone, the nurse at the orphanage maybe, or Cedric, once told her that the world outside New York was forest. Endless green hills where eagles nested and Iroquois stalked the brush. Mary had never seen a real tree, only the flowery and girlish ones in Central Park. The only birds she knew were pigeons and the bronze owls that blinked the hour from the cornice of the Herald building. Forest trees couldn't be as tall as buildings. Buildings shadowed all, saw all, knew all, and to look up for too long made her breath clutch as she pictured the view from those heights. She tried to envision springtime pastures as she imagined New Jersey must have looked like, and saw him walking barefoot through the forest in a blue robe embroidered with gold, threads of sunlight in his beard, his body shaped like the blonde tree trunks that thrust like spears of a buried army. The pure, invigorating air seemed to her at one rhythm with his breathing. She saw the tiny red-breasted bird land on his shoulder and a fawn lick his open palm. A man of the city and the woods was this J.M. Nesbitt, where her world ended and another began. This, for Mary, was a height of indulgence, daydreaming of Nesbitt in the freezing cold. She struggled to stay focused. Sometimes she could be as fanciful as Sarah, letting her imagination grow like jasmine and orchid and hollyhock, though hers was a garden she tended in secret. She could hear the chiming conversation of icicles. Unable to look down or up, she had to look straight at Sarah and her stupid doll and the stupid rich man's book. Give me that, she wrestled it from Sarah. Swatting at her sister's hand, she ripped out the frontispiece and ate it, imagined it as bread filling her belly. Sarah cried like a spoiled brat. Mary tore a handful of pages and stuffed them in her mouth, only to pause at an illustration of the gingerbread man, the male or female child, and an obese dog being conveyed through the air by a flying flamingo. Flamingos can't fly, she thought, and struck a match. The pages burning in the middle of the gantry illuminated Sarah's tearful face. Warmth. The book was a beating black heart feeding the flames with its life. The wizard gave me that, said Sarah. If he a wizard, why didn't he do something useful? Mary shouted, like take us away from here. Why didn't he stop us from starving? He's just a stupid, crazy white man. The window flew open. There appeared a white woman as shriveled as the negress was fat, bug-eyed with terror. Her hair was a wreath of yellow smoke around her scalp. Vandals! She emptied a tea kettle on the book. The water hissed and steamed and melted ice. The sound echoed off the tenement walls behind them, becoming massive, a warren of snakes. Mary and Sarah put their backs to the rail. The woman grabbed their wrists, hauled them into the apartment, and dropped them on the hardwood floor. Before Mary could think to flee, her abductress slammed the window shut. It took Mary a moment to adjust her eyes to the dark. They stood in a small bedroom cluttered with ramshackle furniture and several dozen articles of clothing, some hung on laundry lines nailed to the walls, much of it lumped on the floor in reeking piles. In the middle of the floor, a gas lamp cast light on the thin, expressionless faces of 6 small girls seated around it. The place smelled of damp earth and fried fish. Teresa, said the white woman again. As she pushed them from the room, fingernails like 8 daggers at their backs, Mary watched the girls. They had question mark spines, headscarves tied under their pointed chins, deep-set eyes downcast as they mechanically sewed lining on coats and trousers. Having never known what made the Lady of New Orleans famous among thieves, Mary was surprised at the simplicity of it. Thugs needed clothing too. Teresa, said the old woman, these vandals lit the fire escape on fire. Mary saw one of the girls had a crate nailed together around her scrawny ankles. They were led into a kitchen that smelled of sweat and burnt hair. Seated at a round table was a negress and 5 girls making flowers from scraps of red and green paper. Their finished bundles filled an ever-growing pile in the center. Swaying ponderously in her rocking chair, the negress wore the blue dress, head wrap, shawl, and once white checkerboard apron of a southern mammy. She stopped in mid-rock, shot glass poised on her bottom lip. You brought them in here? She said in alarm. The white woman thrust the kettle imperiously at the negress, splashing a fat drop onto her thigh. Teresa closed her eyes and murmured deep in her throat. The kitchen smelled of mildew and cooked meat. Its illumination came from brass-holder candles placed on the various furnitures and cupboards. From the walls came clanking, stomping, screaming, water sputtering from a sink, a baby's cry, the gruesome sounds of the tenement. Despite the chill in the air, Mary felt her palms grow slick with sweat. The white woman screamed, "These 2 little monkeys were lighting our fire escape on fire. Oh, you 2 will be punished." Fear clenched like a fist in Mary's gut. She took note of how many people were there, the available exits, how quickly she could reach the knives and scissors on the table. On the ironing board sat a cage that was too small for the live rabbits stuffed inside. They writhed in a furry mass, a living ball of sickle teeth and drooling pink eyes, and Mary felt for them. What kind of people keep rabbits, she asked herself, and as quickly answered herself, people who never leave. Every so often, the rabbits screamed their suffocation. In the corner of the room stood a gas stove that looked like the bottom half of an egg perched on 3 legs, and Mary knew what the rabbits were for. Her mouth went dry. She took her sister's hand and readied for whatever would come. Sarah shivered so terribly her knees knocked together, but she had too much dignity to cry. Good girl, thought Mary. They could still make it out of the tiger's den. Miss Evangeline, the negress wiped her hands on her apron. These is the delivery boy, girls with the package. He wasn't supposed to bring them inside. Her mistress's eyes went wild. She dropped the kettle with a clatter and turned this way and that, dressing gown sweeping the floor, her hands out like lobster claws. Finally, she clamped them on the shoulders of the nearest girl as if she might strangle her. Instead, she stroked the child's head. The terror never left the girl's face. "Oh, silly me," said the Southern woman in a sing-song lilt. Her furious expression turned to one of dead-eyed pleasantry. "Welcome, little darlings. I am glad to have your company, as are my granddaughters." She waved a hand to the dusky girls. "Why, Teresa, what a goose you are. You could have brought our company inside if you knew they were going to light our fire escape. Tell me, what if there was a fire? Where would we escape to if the escape is on fire?" Flies buzzed around the ceiling cracks. Mary shifted from foot to foot rather than give them a stationary target. She hated flies worse than ants or rats. Teresa lowered her eyes. "I'm sorry, Miss Evangeline." "I said I am not ready. I never said they could not come inside. Having a conflagration on the side of your house does seem a bit conspicuous, does it not?" "Yes, Miss Evangeline." All the while, the children kept their eyes on their work. They coughed and scratched at rashes on their arms. Mary worried she might catch something. Two things became obvious. These kids were not the lady's grandchildren, and the title Lady of New Orleans was not meant in respect. "Now," said the lady, "as I am still not ready for company, you two arsonists will entertain Teresa for a moment." While the lady spruced up in her bedroom, Mary and Sarah put their backs to the wall. Teresa rose from the wicker chair and moved as if the years of her life were shackles. Kneeling, she picked up the tea kettle and, with great bovine steps, placed it on the stove. She started a pot of oats mixed with a can of Borden's evaporated milk. Where she walked, the flour makers cringed at the touch of her shadow. Mary didn't know whether this sweatshop or the giant black woman frightened her more. Teresa settled her bulk back in the chair. She poured a shot of John Jameson's and drank it noisily, her throat pouching in and out like a frog's. Swallowing took her several moments of gritting her teeth and screwing up her face. She grunted. That's good whiskey." She wiped her lips with a plump forefinger and fixed her stare on the girls. "How much the West Indian asking you for them photographs? That's what's in the bag, by the way." $5, said Mary with bass in her voice. Cedric had entrusted her with a number, and she meant to collect. The woman flicked her finger like there was dirt in her nail. "You get 3. "Huh?" said Mary. "That ain't right." "How do you figure, child?" 3 was enough for her if it meant getting out of there, but Cedric said 5. "West Indian gone be mad," she reminded the woman in a serious voice. She'd hoped Teresa would flinch at his name, but the negress burst with hearty laughter that set her huge body quaking like a doomed palace in Atlantis. "Oh, child," she wiped a tear from her eye. "I'm sure that old black Fagin got you and the other little 30th Street pickpockets thinking he the devil himself. But in New York, Teresa St. Clair is a name." She taunted Mary. "Do you even have a name, let alone a name?" "I'm Mary March," Mary said in defiance. A small name, one the world afforded neither fear nor honor, but it was hers, and she would demand respect for it. Mary wondered if she could reason with the woman. She thought fast. "How much do you girls make on flowers? 5 cents a gross? Well, it takes an hour just to get here from the Merry Maiden." Teresa's groan sounded like it came from deep inside a cave. "Quiet, child," she said. "You trying to haggle? That's good you got some brass in you." She poured another shot. "The West Indian been getting his garments done here for a long time, longer than you've been on this earth. And I want you to tell him something." Her eyes narrowed. "Long as we knowed him, he never cheat us. Now he send us street rats like y'all asking for half a month's rent for a bunch of photographs. I know he thinks Miss Evangeline's going dull in the head. You tell him she ain't dull and she ain't idle. Just like you got your master, Mary March, I got my mistress, and I won't see her took advantage of." Mary clamped her lips together. She fought to hold back tears. With a clatter, Miss Evangeline's door swung open, and there posed the woman in chinchilla. "Smile, child," Teresa whispered to Mary. The lady's room reminded Mary of a hearse, its cramped confines decorated in lace and Shellsworth plates, candles, and saints. Its grandest accoutrements were a toilet table crusted all over with spilled cosmetics, and an antique wardrobe of dresses turned to moth hives. Like black leaves, photographs lay in whorls on the shelves and floor. The Bible on her night table was open to Jonah. The lady dumped her newest photographs onto her bed and sprawled among them like she was taking a warm bath. Bourbon Street, she sighed. Canal Street. Lake Pontchartrain. I don't know how to actually pronounce that word. Sorry. Her hand fluttered to her chest. Taken by a true Louisiana. Teresa, do you remember Louisiana? I do, Miss Evangeline. Teresa stood by the door, a grimly smiling sentinel. Teresa's been with me my whole life. Her voice went thin with reminiscence. She was just the wildest thing you ever saw. Those were our golden days down on the plantation. A regular Arcadia. Now, Mary could see the little girl lying behind the lady on the corner of the bed. Hands clasped prayerfully under her cheek, her eyes were vacant. Red lip prints trailed down her throat and under her collar. This fresh horror had Mary's heartbeat pounding in her ears, demanding all her composure to keep her fear from showing. Beside her, Sarah hugged the doll tight. Your family was good people, she heard Teresa say. Christian people. You are a terrible liar, said Miss Evangeline. My mother was a bitch from hell. Good people don't run sweatshops, Mary thought. They didn't deal in flies and fears, sick children, and paper blossoms. Beating weak beneath that scrawny freckled chest lay a heart rimmed in frost. Mary loathed the both of them. The lady threw up the photographs to let them fall like feathers. With a gesture to Sarah, she said, You, baby doll, you look ready to freeze to death. I am cold, ma'am. The words came shivering out of Sarah. You look right wretched, said the lady, just like the little match seller. Do you remember that children's tale? Mary said she did. As she recalled, a little match seller was forced by her father to sell matches in a blizzard, had a bunch of hallucinations, and froze to death. Awful goddamn story. Propping her stubbly chin on an elbow, the lady looked at her wardrobe. Teresa, correct me if I'm wrong, but are those two children's coats in the wardrobe? Bring them to me. The fat woman's bottom lip quivered. Miss Evangeline, it ain't right. Please don't be willful, Teresa. There's two girls' coats right here. The good Lord has seen it right to take my eyesight day by day, but for the nonce, I see what I see. Here we have two girls, and they are cold. It's the Christmas season. Let it be said the Lady of New Orleans is a charitable soul. Miss Evangeline, them coats, Teresa choked on the words. Do you remember? Shut up and bring the fucking coats, please. Another gift, more sinister than the last. Made of red velvet, the coats flared down from the neck like T-bells. White fur lined the hood, cape and cuffs, and the cape tied at the throat with white lacing. On the lady's instruction, the girls put them on. For all their wear, they were the finest clothes to touch Mary's skin. As she slipped her hands through the sleeves, the goose down on the inner lining felt like a soft-furred animal brushing her knuckles. Clasping her hands together gave the appearance that she wore a muff. Heavy and light at the same time, the coat enveloped Mary in warmth. Lovely as two winter roses, said the lady. I bet the most you hoped for was a tip. Well, I would say you got a great deal more. Just like a Christmas story. Farewell, my turtle doves. Now, she turned to her bed warmer. Give them their $5, Teresa. Yes, Miss Evangeline. The fat woman ushered them none too gently from the room. Oh, Topsy, the lady muttered. Topsy, Topsy, Topsy. I do wish you could still do a somerset. Teresa closed the door behind her. Finding her shot of whiskey filled with drowned flies, she dumped it on the floor, poured another. One of the girls wrapped her a cigarette from a bag of job brand tobacco. The former slave sat, all the while staring at the sisters with mixed admiration and envy. Where's our money? Said Mary, her voice betraying anger. The woman had no right to keep them any longer. Shut up, Teresa said. Her father was good Christian people. He never beat nobody. Her eyes glazed over. When she was about your age, she got sick. I climbed right into that bed with her. I wanted to take the sickness into me. Better I die than she. She, as close to an angel could be seen on this horrid world. She lived. Was my love brought her back from the gates? You want to hear about them coats? No, Sarah piped up. Her voice sounded very small. You shut your mouth, quadroon, said the woman, because I came back for Miss Evangeline. I already lived up north with Miss Feely. I had a life in Vermont, freedom papers and everything. But Miss Evangeline's sainted father, God rest his soul, he got stabbed to death by some ruffian. Now her mother, she was a piece of work. Stole her own daughter's inheritance and put her out in the streets. I found her working as a cleaning girl in a brothel in Nolens. She still had the most beautiful golden hair, like an angel in hell. She choked out the words a moment's sorrow. I took her up north with me, but our train crashed and we had to go it on foot. Them coats you wearing, girl, was blessed by the Almighty. Them coats got us all the way from Louisiana to New York City. All them crackers between here and there, ain't no one know there was a little nigger girl and white girl under there. No money to speak of when we got here, but we got through. She glugged down the shot and narrowed her eyes on them. Don't you lose them coats, else I'll find you. What'd you see here, girls? Nothing, they both said. Damn right you didn't. For a moment she stared at the wall, as if she could see the plantation through the cracks and fading vines. The white girls folded paper. You know, when I was a girl, can we please leave? Said Mary. When I was a girl, she repeated louder, lighting her cigarette with a match. Nobody knowed where I come from. So they just said I sprung up out the ground. I could vex the white folks, I really could. There ain't no such thing, girl, as a child just sprung out of the ground. Tell me, what do they call a little nigger child ain't no black man to say he's a daddy? Orphan? Mary stammered. Anger flashed in the woman's eyes. I ain't no orphan. My family come from good stock. There's pure blood in these veins. Mary recoiled in horror. Your sister? Now the woman turned contemplative. She tightened her shawl around her shoulders. Sing, granddaughters, she instructed the girls at the table. These girls weren't from America. Trying to pronounce the words, they sounded like they had grass in their mouths, but they sang. Lord in heaven, they sang. Oh, holy night, the stars are brightly shining. It is the night of our dear Savior's birth. Teresa's brooding gaze pierced through the smoke. We was born so close together, we might as well be twins. Would you let anybody take advantage of your sister? No, Mary squeaked and took Sarah's hand. Long lay the world in sin and error pining. One of the girls broke down weeping, tears on the flowers. Momentarily, the others faltered before resuming their song louder than before. Please, Mary begged, please let us go. We ain't done nothing to you. The woman sat upright, truly incensed. Nothing? Nothing? You seduced her. Mary set her feet to bolt for the door. Teresa shook like a woman possessed, overwhelmed with a dark passion. Children can't never keep their mouths shut. Y'all's raggedy asses is orphans. I can tell. Ain't nobody gonna miss y'all. Ain't no mama to clutch her breath for you. She flung her cigarette in a flower girl's face. The girl screamed like a mouse getting stepped on, unnoticed by Teresa, who shot to her feet like a piece of popping popcorn and grabbed a carving knife off the table. Don't run. The door's bolted. Don't move. A thrill of hope. The weary world rejoices, for yonder breaks a new and glorious morn. The world slowed. The floor shook as a woman advanced like a steamer into harbor. Mary threw herself in front of Sarah. Light flashed along the blade, and above it she saw starbursts of frost on a window. Think you can take what is mine? Said Teresa, the tears on her cheeks shining like a blade. Take 'em off. Take 'em off, I say. Okay, Mary started to untie the collar. You can have fall on your knees. Teresa lunged for them. Mary dove to the right, pushing Sarah with her. Teresa's momentum caught her knife in the wall and brought a rack of dishes clattering down. Tangled in the coat, Mary struggled to stand. Sarah tried to pull her up by her sleeve. With astounding quickness, Teresa hurled a pot at them. Mary brought up her arm to shield herself, and her arm went numb, then it burned with pain. She retreated until her back hit the wall. Nauseated with hurt, she no longer saw the woman, only the knife, the twitching wrist. She felt Sarah's hand on her shoulder. One arm, she braced herself before Sarah and flashed her teeth. She searched for Jesus' mercy, and she saw him. They should have died that night. They grew so hungry that she and Cedric were eating mud, forcing Sarah to gag it down. On that night, a Kentucky woman on her way home from the laundry offered a place to stay. For 2 nights, they lived and ate with Mrs. Ruggles, her 9 children, and the boarders who slept in the lofts. The Ruggles hung stockings on their wall. Mary braided the girls' hair. It felt like having a family. Mary should have been arrested when she stole the doll in Central Park, but no one saw her, and Sarah got her little princess. Over the year, they hid it in the walls during the day, cuddled with it at night, no one the wiser. Even Cedric couldn't force them to pawn it. Or, when Sarah asked Dr. Chambers if she could play a little longer, she was getting sassy, as a beautiful girl might, and affront the doctor corrected with the back of his fist. It wasn't like when he hit Mary. The bruises sank into her soil, and because no one could see them, she could pretend for Sarah's sake it didn't hurt. However, Sarah's cheek was a purple shadow on the moon, a demonic eclipse Mary could not ignore. Only a monster would hurt someone so beautiful. That same night, she'd lain awake implying escape when she heard the floor creak and saw one of the boys sneaking around the girls' dormitory, long-limbed and nimble, like a shadow moving on its own. Wondering why Cedric had come in her room, she saw him unlatch the window and push it open, poised in the moonlight. She didn't waste another second. "Let us go with you. You'll just slow me down," he told her. "We can help you," she said, and added, "the both of us." Orphans were beginning to stir from sleep. "Then keep up," he said. They poised at the ledge, a steep drop and 4-foot jump to the next roof. Beyond that, freedom. The curses and yells of drunks became a din. Cats screamed their valentines. A train hollered. Cedric leapt and landed on the other side in a roll. Sarah froze on the ledge, crying and fighting to stay put, and Mary had to push her into his arms. From that high, she saw the city as Jesus did. Factory smoke concealed the stars. Chimneys and unfinished brick walls sprang from the rooftops like neck hairs on edge. Big shoulder bridges held up the sky. The buildings kept multiplying until the end of sight. She said a prayer and jumped. She flew. Mary and Sarah should have died in the streets, but someone watched over them. Now the rabbits in the cage were squealing and baring their long teeth. Mary could die in the tenement, or she could become like the little rabbit in the story. Spotted by the farmer, he hid in the watering can, upset the potted plants, dove under the fence, and was gone. Little Sambo, he was wild and black like her, but he still beat the tigers. Sarah threw her doll at the woman's face. The sudden act startled Teresa, stalled her. The missile missed her by a good foot, but Sarah the doll's coat collar stuck on the latch to the rabbit cage, pulling it open as it dropped. Emancipated vermin dove onto the table into the center of the flowers. Paper petals filled the room like ticker tape. The girls singing turned to screams as they dove under the ironing board. Swatting the petals, Teresa heard her sister yell to know what the matter was. Those horrible children were vanished in the red and green. Enraged, she charged their direction, slashing the air like a butcher. Her toe hit a small hand and she stabbed down, heard the satisfying sound of her knife punching flesh. Before it had time to scream, she stabbed again. Evil nigger girls. Why did they come to disturb her happy home? Flowers sailed on the floor, aftermath of a plaid blizzard. The rabbits were gone. Smooth, small, white fingers touched her foot, and she feared she'd killed one of her own girls. It turned out to be the doll, her belly ripped open, her face placid and beautiful among the cotton fluff. Teresa couldn't believe her hands had killed a white girl, even a fake one, and they wouldn't stop shaking. From the hall came the sound of their drunk neighbors stumbling home, and under his clamor, the weeping voices of girls she knew. Thank you.
Thank you, Owen. That was great. Could you remind us again the collection that lives in so that folks can pick it up? I know I'm gonna.
Dance on Saturday, published by Small Beer Press, nominated for the Philip K. Dick Award.
Awesome. Yeah, Small Deer is a great shop.
Yeah, love them.
That was a terrific story. Thank you very much. And SG Browne, thank you very much also for joining us tonight. Two very different stories, really different, but that's okay. It's a great program as always. So that's it for Story Hour for this week. Next week, we have James Chambers and Wendy N. Wagner. So until then, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and we'll see you next time. Good night, everybody. Thank you. And thanks,
Good night.
Tom, for stepping up. Appreciate your help. Night, folks.